cousins. Welcome to S.A.S.S, our spirituality and support symposium. Think morning witchy chats around a warm campfire. The recording is started, and by participating in S.A.S, you agree to read and accept the terms of engagement, which we post in the chat. We'll ask that you mute during the recording for clarity during the meeting and for the afterplay. Use the raised hand reaction in the above the emoji section to uh, chime in, and then if you want to weigh in specifically on the subject that we're currently talking on, type weigh in the chat. Otherwise, we'll assume that you are wanting to change the subject to a new subject. We try to do a handoff to keep it going. So if you can go ahead and call on the next person when you're called, then that would be great. If you can't remember to, or if you're not feeling up to it, or you don't know who's next, I'm Ocean. I'm the mod today, and I totally got your back. And now we'll get started. If you have any announcements, Jen, or if you just want to launch right into the witchy stuff.
Dude, my announcements are the witchy stuff. But I do have to say that it is very odd energy to not see anyone else on camera. Like this happens every once in a while. They're like, we have an exceptionally shy day, which is cool. That is fine. But I do want to like acknowledge that is a difference. And I appreciate those of you that are like, hey, Jen, I'll put my face on camera. Appreciate you. Announcements. Oh my gosh. We did the Boss Witch Alchemy workshop this weekend, and that was so much fun. I really enjoyed being able to get together with such like passionate witches, and it amuses me because it was like equal parts all of us trying to stay off of soapboxes because we're all talking about things that we're passionate about, passionate enough about that we are making it like our professional thing. And so that was really cute. Everyone that participated in that workshop, thank you. You added so much to the experience overall. The next workshop that we have on the books is going to be the video introduction to video editing. And that workshop is going to be facilitated by Akasha, and she is the tech witch behind the website. She does all that kind of stuff, and she's a graphic designer and on and on and on and on and on. And we have been trying to talk her into doing an introduction to video editing class for a while. And she finally has the time to do it. And that's going to be the end of February. That's the 24th, right? Is that the 24th? Am I right about that? Yes. So if you're interested in that, I'm actually going to be participating in that because I don't know shit about video editing, and it's super dumb that I'm this far up into social media and I'm like, whatever. So yeah, I rely heavily on Akasha, and this is gonna be fun. So I'll be learning along with you guys. And ooh, we also have our first ever staycation style virtual retreat called Rituals and Revelry. It starts on the 16th of February. It's a 3-day event. It caters to the neurodivergent mind, so there's lots of breaks throughout, but it is a catered experience. Uh, for those of you that are like, I really, really need a schedule, we have a loosely defined schedule of what it is that we're going to be doing, but this is an experience that is based in connection-based magic where we prioritize flow over a clock. It's really important as witches to have your system experience what life is like when you do that, even if it's only for a few days a year. It helps you kind of calibrate a little bit. I know that it's super pokey to some of you that really need that schedule and that structure. I promise you're going to be well supported through that. We are absolutely aware of this. It's a very common thing in witches, and so we're trying to like help you through it. It's socializing is a big part of this experience because it's about connecting and preparing our systems and our homes for the upcoming spring equinox, and sharing that energy of being together and sharing space fuels that in a lot of ways. There are a few tickets still available, but it's very limited. And because we switched to this new platform for our website, there are payment plans available. So we're trying to make it as accessible as possible. That's the announcements. We have Sacred Space coming up on the 7th as well. We have an early Sacred Space as well as a later in the day Sacred Space. You're going to find those, all of the events and everything is going to be on the calendar on the website. Akasha and I have been really, really busy working on the members only sections of the website. So both for the Spellcrafters Guild as well as Foundations. We're just going to keep adding content there. So when you guys are needing like links to S.A.S.S or you're needing, information, it's going to be in that members only section. So go there first, check it out. If you don't see what you are needing there, message the little like chat that's right there. There is a witch on the other side of that. That witch is most of the time Maria. You're talking directly to her. So we want you to get connected to the things that you need to get connected to. Did I do it? I think I did it. I think I did it. So for the sacred space meetings that are coming up, I facilitate with a few other witches in the morning at the early one, and Maria facilitates with a few of the after dark witches in the like evening one. And they're different. You can go to both if you want to. There's no restrictions to how many you get to go to.
We also have one on the first Saturday of the month too. We just had it yesterday, so
yeah,
I facilitate that one.
Yeah, wit and a crew. So, all right. Okay. All right. Okay. What's been going on in your world today? This morning's live. We've been going live on Instagram almost every morning. For those of you that didn't know, we're doing this. Like every morning, we go live for at least like 45 minutes or so. And we set our practice for the day. We establish a daily practice together. We do divination, we draw cards, we have conversations. It's a really great time. So if you guys are looking for just something to get you going every day, even if you can't make the live, we immediately post the recording so you can pretend that it's live and just kind of go along with us also in your own time. So that's been fun, but one of the things that is an interesting kind of like, extra nugget from that is this ability to be able to touch base with so many witches at the same time, like every day. And I find it fascinating that we like often draw the same cards when we do, like when we pull cards. Many of us will draw the same card or have the same theme going on. And I just love that. The data collection witch side of me is just like, ooh, it's becoming this whole different kind of divination of like, if all of these witches are all having a similar experience, what the fuck is going on behind the veil, right? So yeah, that's been fun. Welcome back, Ray. We missed you.
Thank you. As soon as I get a job, I'll be back in Foundations.
We have a lot. So I love that this came up too, Ray, also, if you don't mind me like doing this.
Go for it.
Witches come and go with regards to like your connection to bright and dark. There's going to be times where your path diverts and you're like, man, I'm really feeling called to invest a lot of my attention in this other thing right now. We're not going to hate on you guys for that at all. There isn't any, what is it called? There's no like exit penalty or anything like that. We don't feel like you're betraying us by going to like another organization to explore something about your practice. We are always here when you're ready to come home. We will be here for as long as you need support in the way that we're able to support you. So that's a whole thing. We do this whole like coming and going thing all the time. It's great. And now we get to talk to Ray about all of their adventures that they've had. So,
It has been fun. Very fun adventures.
is it fun? Just kidding.
No, actually fun.
Yeah. Ah.
Yeah.
So, all that being said, guys, I usually just get up here and just chit chat until somebody raises their hand, is like, you know what, Jen? You can get off that awkward soapbox, and I've got something to say. But I can keep chitty chatting until anything. What have you guys been like experiencing this week? If you could sum up this last week in like a phrase, what would that like phrase be? For me, like this last week, because I haven't had access to hot water, it when something like that happens, I find that it's this like drastic shift in my perspective of how involved I am or how I participate in things like hot water. I take that for granted when I can just like do walk right up to the thing and have the spigot and it's like instant hot water for my tea or even like a hot shower or whatever. And when I'm actually like boiling the water myself, I'm more involved in it. And to be completely 100% honest, it's actually been kind of cool. Uh, it feels more aligned to participate more in things like hot water or like those like anyway. I've had several conversations with other witches about that whole like yes, it takes more physical effort to pull water from the well, take it, boil it, and then have it. It does take your time of investment to do that. But we take for granted that so does turning that faucet and getting hot water, like paying for hot water, right? You are still investing your time, but you're investing your time in your 9 to 5 to get the money to do that, right? Does that make sense? And that's the part that we don't pay attention to. We like take it for granted how much we have to actually invest our time and energy and resources for things to be easier. But we're investing not directly in those things. It's an indirect thing. But anyway, that's what I've been thinking about this week. I'm all on fire about it, actually. Renee, did you want to jump up on that?
Yeah.
My
So
fellow Alaskan, there's
yeah,
nothing
yeah.
quite like living in Alaska to like show you what participation looks like, right? Go
Right.
ahead.
Like we live in a primal environment for real. And Jen Marie, a couple of years ago, we had what was called an Arctic hurricane. So we had 90-mile-an-hour winds, plus freezing cold weather, plus an ice storm. And almost everyone in Wassila's power was knocked out. Mine was out for 10 days in the middle of winter. And so my husband and I had one aquarium at the time. And so we jammed into Anchorage to get the last generator to try to get home to save the aquarium, which we didn't, unfortunately, which was a huge thing for everyone that had aquariums and like reptiles and everything up here because anyway, when we drove back, the and Jen Marie knows this too, like all these roofs got ripped off of buildings, like a whole, I think it was an A&W got completely decimated. And you know those like little barn garden sheds people have out in their yard? It was like the Wizard of Oz. Like we just saw one blowing down the highway, like in front of us in the car. It was absolutely nuts. But so our power was out for 10 days. So we did have a generator to keep our heat on, but it just had enough to keep our heat on. But we did, I have a gas stove. So we just made like a big pot of vegan chili and we played our acoustic guitars and we read out loud to each other. And luckily Rich was home because he's usually on the slope. But I read a book every single day and it was great. Like there is something, you could choose to be miserable, or you can like just, like Jen Marie said, kind of embrace like what's going on and realize how many things you do kind of take for granted. Also because, no internet, no nothing. But luckily we had lots of little hobby things to and Rich read he read H.P. Lovecraft out loud to me at night in the candlelight, and it was really spooky and fun. So anyway, I was just gonna say, yeah, like we live in like a very harsh primal place where people come to visit and they think it's like Disneyland and that they're just gonna go climb a mountain, and it doesn't work that way. So but yes, and then John Marie and I, it's been 26 below all week here. So cars don't start, and then plus it dumped snow last night. Okay, I'm done.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
So before we started recording, we were already chatting about like not having water and all that kind of stuff, and the snow, big dumps of snow, and so this week I sort of feel the same sort of energy, like being challenged in the mundane sort of daily experiences. And like I reflected a lot, like just hearing your experience up north in Alaska, where you live in this primal place, right? And you work to survive, right? Like you work to live within this natural environment that can take you down and take you out in a second. And that really sort of like, so I'm here in a little suburban area, and like I have goals and desires to move more in a rural area where I'm going to have to do these things to survive and to just live amongst the environment. And I don't know, like I don't typically have challenges with that, right? But I just feel challenged over the last few months, especially like in every little area. And and I've been reactive, and I sort of kind of get into that victim, like, why me? Like, why is this always happening? Why do I always feel so challenged? Like, what am I not learning? Like, what am I not getting? Like, I really sort of get hard on myself when I go through these experiences. And then today I'm out there shoveling for probably, I don't know, like the 6th time in the last 48 hours. And the banks keep getting higher and higher. And I'm like, okay, where do I put this snow now? But I also kind of went, I went into this like little reflection of like, I used to be in the Navy, and I used to have to go out to the front of the ship, the forecastle, and like clean up lines and sit on like comms for like 10 hours in the freezing cold in the middle of the Atlantic. And I had nothing to complain about because that's just what I had to do, right? Like there was no other choices. That was my job in that moment for that time period. And I knew it would end at some point. So I was like, I don't know, it was just sort of like this week, this energy of just like feeling challenged and like struggling, but like also reflecting. And I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but I just keep hearing things. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like what I'm kind of experiencing too. But it's like participating. I like that word that you used, is like participating in the moments and in the challenges, and finding ways to sort of overcome it. And yeah, I kind of lost where I was going with this, but I can relate to what both of you had just said, with just like having to like survive and do what you have to do just to get through it. Anyways, so I'm gonna I forget where I was going. I'll come back to me.
I like, to be very clear, I would not choose to live in Alaska if I were up here by myself. I wouldn't do this. The only way that this works is because there's a lot of support there. You know, I have my partner and my adult kids and all of their friends and all of our friends. It's this whole like doing this on my own. Oh my God, that is so much fucking, oh my God, that's so much work. It's an unimaginable amount of work. Yeah, there's people that do it, but I don't
See, I'm
know.
one of those people.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so
I don't
much.
have a lot of support, and that's sometimes, and I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
No, not at all.
But I don't have a lot of support. Like I have little tiny pockets of support, and they do bring value, and they bring a lot into my experience. But like, you know, I have two kids. Their father, when he's home, he's in the Navy, so sometimes he's home, sometimes he's not. So sometimes it is all on me, and I don't have family I like that are supportive, that are there. So it's just like I'm always trying to figure out how to support myself, but like sometimes I need support, and I'm trying to do it all, right? Um, but the challenges like keep bringing new sort of like revelations and other sort of experiences to like help support me. And I forget, I don't know if it was Wit who said it today or Kim. It was just like how, maybe it was on the live, I can't remember, but somebody said something today on one of them, and it was just like, how am I going to set up support for myself like today, um like in the and understanding sort of the capacity so I could get through the day. I can't remember exactly who said this morning on the live, but I think it was on the live. But that really resonated with me and sort of brought a little bit of insight on maybe how I can start my day in those moments where I'm not feeling like like I have support. So how can I support myself through this experience or struggle? Anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Go ahead, Renee.
Jen, if you don't mind, Jennifer, I was gonna say, I think that, you know, it's so great that we have this group, but also when you're doing really hard work and self-examination, like shadow work, I think it kind of weakens you overall because you're just processing so much information that you haven't processed before. So that's, you know, one reason I think it's so important to have a group that you can talk with about that kind of stuff. Um, and then, sorry, I'm going to change the subject a little bit, but I just can't stop talking about Alaska. And I just wanted to talk about like the magic of Alaska real quick, just so you guys kind of know. Um, so when you're out in the woods here, it feels so completely different than anywhere else I've ever been because you can just feel, I know this is going to sound so cheesy, but you can feel like the ancient powers of the elements here in a way I've never felt anywhere else. When you're outside in the northern lights, like it looks like gods in the sky. That's what it looks like. I mean, you can see how, you know, primitive people, you know, worship the sky. You know, it's just, well, I mean, I guess we still do, but you know what I mean? Like it's so visual here, like it's right in your face. And like if you want to, you can get in your car and drive a half hour in any direction, and you might be able to stand on land no one has stood on in 10,000 years or maybe ever. It's just, it's vast. But there's, there's, um, just an underlying current. Like when I say primal, like there's an underlying current, I feel like, of magic just humming in the air and the trees and, you know, everywhere here all the time. And sometimes it's terrifying. Like sometimes you feel like panic, like you can feel something there that you can't see, that you know is just so huge and does not adhere to the Judeo-Christian ethic, you know, that it's something so old and so massive, that sometimes it is really scary, but it is a magical place. And yeah, it's got a lot to offer in that way, and it is a very harsh environment, and you do have to like always be prepared for like anything that can come up. Everybody here I think drives, we have like duffel bags in our trucks full of survival gear like all the time, just because stuff can go wrong in the summer, stuff always goes wrong in the winter. But I just wanted to say, if anybody ever wants to visit, Alaska is the easiest place to visit. We love fresh blood, we love visitors, but it is a place I think everyone should experience, just because it has a lot to offer. And then that's my love letter to Alaska, so I'm going to mute.
That's what all Alaskans sound like, by the way, guys.
It totally is.
It is. We all do it.
That's
I think that
awesome.
what I would describe it as, that there is less influence with the like busy, modern, mundane world up here. The influence, you can't get to us. It doesn't get to us as much. And you can feel that. Go ahead, Karen.
I love how it's one of those extreme places where you have to be mindful. You know, Africa, I mean, not to throw shade to Alaska. Alaska is, amazing. Can't wait to go back in June. But it's amazing that, it forces you the same way that sometimes traumas and dramas in life force you to sit down and just basic. You're worried about a basic need like breathing. Same way in Alaska, where you're worried about, hydration. You're gonna need water this week. And if everything's frozen because you weren't mindful of your practice, you're gonna die, witch. So, and that's what I love it being, the extremes and looking at it that way. It takes you back down to what is most important, what is the priority, and what's bullshit. Because we get caught up in the bullshit a lot. The stuff that, oh my God, this is due and it's gonna be late and they're mad at me and everybody's all upset. We all get caught in that. But when it's all bullshit. You take it down to sometimes just what do you need right this minute? Take a drink of water, take a deep breath. What do you need in this moment to survive? Yeah, that's all. I just like that pointed out with extreme weather in Alaska and other places, just that reminder of sometimes you got to take it down to ground zero, take a breath. Love you guys. You're up, Jen.
I think I have and correct me if I'm wrong, Renee. Samantha, are you also Alaskan? I saw you commented about the interior temperatures. That'd be awesome. Are we multiplying? This is great. This is great. Anyway, I think the thing that sums it up really well in living in an environment like this, autopilot doesn't fucking work. You can't go into autopilot. You can't go into I'm, doing down the road to my 9 to 5, not paying attention. You can't go into I'm going to just walk out in the backyard and mow the lawn. I'm going to just go you can't do that. There is no autopilot. You have to be present with what is happening around you. You have to look at your surroundings. You have to engage with your surroundings because you don't have a choice.
Because
You will be part of, you'll become dinner. You'll be a part of the life cycle up here. So you have to be present and pay attention so that you have some kind of influence on where you are in that life cycle, right? And I love that about Alaska. And I cannot see my system ever living in a city like environment, removed from this kind of way of living where you're much more engaged and participating in everything that's going on around you. Um, it is challenging, but for me, it is worth it. It is so worth it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I also don't intend to retire up here unless we have like a big whole community of people doing something together up here, because I certainly don't want to be like shoveling snow off my roof in my 60s like my parents did. So, yeah. Yes, Samantha, you're definitely Alaskan. Go ahead, Ocean. Not that you need anyone to fucking give you that.
Yeah, I've been seeing like a theme running through this past week in a lot of my conversations and in my own experience of support, because like that's a whole subject that almost never gets breached, like until you get into these spaces. Like people, especially like coming from like originally most of my interest in um like what we're doing here was mostly just in psychology, and like I started out like reading a lot about that, and in those spaces it's so support is like talked about, is like the word is said a lot, but it's not really like elaborated on other than you should see a mental health professional. But I believed most of my life that the only support I could have was professional support. And I'm noticing that in a lot of people around me too, was like we don't know how to support each other because there's no list of these are the supports that you can have. There's no list of these are the people that you can ask for these supports. People don't just come up to you and say, these are the things that I can support you with, and these are the things that I can't. Those aren't conversations that we have in almost any relationship, like except for usually romantic ones, like in our socially conditioned lives. And I've started more of those conversations with my friends, but um I wanted to start a conversation here about support and about like, especially with this boss witch stuff, it's like becoming more and more clear to me that the more that we can all talk about like what we're struggling with, and um honestly, yeah, like the more that we can talk about it, the more that we're going to get to the point where we can actually figure out what we need support with. And I think that's hard for me because I always want to go into the conversation already knowing what I need, already knowing my support, already knowing my boundaries. And it's hard to figure those out like as we go in like a conversation. And so that will stop me from showing up in a lot of my friendships and stuff because I'll be like, well, I don't know what I need. And I feel like I can't just talk about it without already knowing. And it's this weird self perpetuating cycle. But support is also a self perpetuating cycle because when we were talking about it in the workshop the other day, when we tell people like exactly how we're feeling about trying to ask, like when we're vulnerable about it, then um the reassurance of another person kind of starts off that cycle, and then it can go into like um a place of like examination and analysis, and then like support, and then struggle, reassurance, and that can all just keep like repeating. So that's what my week has been like. That was a lot more than a sentence, but we can just call it a run-on sentence, right? I was pretty bad at those in high school. Is your hand still up, Jen?
I put it back up because I'm
Okay,
also
well,
like all up in on this stuff this week. Like I've been super into it too. Okay. This whole like support needs thing. This whole oh man. It I'm trying to figure out how this is super there's so many ways to approach this whole support conversation because we are super conditioned to be independent, that being independent is the ideal, and that if you can't do it all, you are broken or not trying hard enough, right? And that by asking for help, there's something wrong with you and you are being an inconvenience to those that care about you by asking for help, right? That is so much fucking bullshit that it's going to take a while to untie and untangle that, but it starts with the like a lot of us here, I don't think very many of us would be here if we didn't see the value of community and working together and how much support we get, just like even emotionally sharing space like this, right? But when we actually scale that out to a physical support thing, and this is something that, when you live in a really rural environment where you're having to do all of this other stuff, the physical needs and how much it's so much, everything works better when you have more people that are passionate about the same thing and are working together, right? Sincerely. Um, and like, it took me so long to admit that because of my neurodivergence and the way that my system works, I can't live independently. Living independently is something that I am never going to be able to do. I've tried to do it countless times and it led to endless suffering uh, and just like awful situations. As soon as I accepted that, not only am I not capable of living independently, I don't want to. I don't want to live by myself. I don't want to have to do everything by myself. Right? It doesn't that there's nothing about that feels uh good and right and aligned or any of that. And so I started to actually ask for that support and ask for the help and be vocal about where I'm struggling with certain things. And as I identify, oh man, I spend more time running around looking for my water bottle than I do like if I had someone that could just like hang out with me and be like, hey, Jen, here you go, right? I could do so much more if it was a team kind of a thing. And so I have friends that come over to my house and help me do these kinds of things and help me to stay on track. Um, and like I openly talk about the next roommate I have when my kids launch, the next roommate I have is going to be passionate about cooking. It would be a great system there because I'm not, and I don't have it in my like there to feed myself, but I know that there is a witch out there that would love to live in Alaska and have their only responsibility be to cook and to like go on foraging adventures and be like there are people that would love to share your life with you. Um, you just have to like open your awareness to the possibility of collaboration and know that it doesn't have to be a permanent thing. It can be like, you know, anyway, I feel like I'm going on this whole tangent. Ocean, do you have your hand up again? Or is it still up? So, yeah. And I do have friends come up to Alaska. Like there's been a few witches that come up to Alaska, spend a week or two with me, and we work on something together and I help them through something and then they go home or back to their adventure. And I love that. I love that dynamic. Go ahead, Renee.
So I know there's not many tickets left. I'm still trying to like see if I can go to the retreat. But if I can't, I just have a fun idea for you guys if you're into that, hearing that, which is last Sunday, there's Shayna, who's a local witch at the Tomb. We had adult show and tell, and that was really fun. And maybe we could even do that here sometime. It's adult show and tell is a good time. That's all.
Witchy show and tell is awesome because we've got the coolest shit, guys. Check out this dandelion fluff that was harvested in the light of the midnight sun by children or whatever. I don't know. Just putting that out there. Go ahead, Renee.
I was gonna say, so my adult show and tell, what I actually had, just because you guys might be interested in it, it's a mermaid bone. So what it is in Alaska, we actually went, you know what? Everybody brought a rock. Every single person there had rocks and crystals. But I had this, so in Alaska, they're extinct now. They got hunted to extinction by Russian whalers in the mid 1800s, but we had a 30-foot Arctic manatee called the stellar sea cow. They were only on the last 4 or 5 islands of the Aleutians, and then they're on some islands in like the Russian islands that are close to the Aleutians, but they are extinct. But I have a fossilized rib bone, part of a fossilized rib bone from a stellar sea cow, and so it is literally a mermaid bone. And then I have also a piece of pre 1974, a piece of a narwhal tusk, which is a unicorn horn, because I'm a unicorn girl. But so yeah, that was part of my show and tell, along with the rocks, because I also am like obsessed with just about every rock from Greenland glows, is UV reactive, and so I collect them, obviously from people in Greenland. But yeah, so that was my show and tell, but it was fun.
We have a very quiet group here today. Like there's a lot of us, and I find it interesting. What is your feeling signature right now, guys? Is it just like peaceful, happy to be here? Like, what's going on? Go ahead. Go ahead, Karen.
I'm hopeful. You know, I am finally trying to figure out what I'm doing with the fucking cafe. You know, I've been brick and mortar was what I always wanted to do. That's how I've always seen it. And I've had all these blocks in how that's going to look if I do it in a virtual community. Well, we're living in a global society, a global world, in a virtual community. How do I make it look? And I've struggled with that for months. I've noped the fuck out of it. I've deleted it once. Y'all didn't know about that. Well, the OGs did, but you know, it because of fear of imposter syndrome and all that. And this week I decided, no, fuck it. I'm gonna do the deal. So yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna, you know, do a, is it okay if I plug the coffee house at this moment for this shit we got going on? Okay, because we're not affiliated, just usually aligned. So this week we're gonna start a literary lunch, and that is like helpful stuff that we're trying to read and get through, that is stuff that we have a hard time getting through on our own sometimes. Like nonviolent communication. Some of us can just chew it all day long. I love that grin over there. I see you, Ezra. And so, and then others, it just takes rereading the same paragraph or the same pages 4 times before it seems to sink in. So we do it together. And then right after the chapter, we read every day for an hour, noon Central Time, do the math yourselves, figure out, you know, where you're at. And come in and join. We read an hour and talk about what we're reading. And then, yeah, and then we'll move on to the next book. We've got what Ocean mentioned, the Boss Witches, that we're coming up with a group just to kind of get together on Sundays. And this is what I know I need to do and I'm afraid to do it. Here's what I'm telling you. And then we can all tell you, you can do it. And we're so proud of you and do the deal. And I don't have any idea where to start. Oh, well, this witch over here used to do that in her last job, so she can help you. And that's where finding support for business witches, and it doesn't mean that you have to own a business or be in business. You can be a stay-at-home parental caregiver, but just want to get your own shit organized. You are more than welcome. The more the merrier. If it gets to be too many, we'll break it off into groups. And yeah, we're just all here to support each other. So I'm feeling very hopeful about that. There's going to be so many more things that we want to bring into the cafe that Roxanne and I were talking this morning, that it'll lead us all the way up to Jen's grounding and setting our intentions for the day. So, and I'm just excited. That's how I'm feeling. Kimberly, what's up, witch?
I have a change of topic, if that's okay. Yeah. So not necessarily maybe a change of topic. I would like to know. So I know that, Valentine's Day is coming up. It's not really a witchy holiday. Some people probably don't celebrate the holiday, right? But I'm gonna have two of my bestie witches here, and I kept thinking to myself, how can we make Valentine's Day witchy? So I'm wanting to know what you guys think, or how you would make Valentine's Day witchy if you weren't like, hanging out with, a boyfriend or girlfriend or, your partner or something like that. You're just hanging out with friends. And go. How do you make it witchy?
Ray, are you weighing in or are you changing the subject? Are you weighing in on the other?
No, I was weighing in on the filling signature of the week, so I'll let Kim have her question.
Okay. I think Renee is next.
So to make it witchy, I would think more like Parks and Rec, like Galentine's Day, where, instead of having like a romantic partner, like making like some really good waffles back in the theme of Galentine's Day, like just like-minded people. But also the first thing that kind of sprang into my mind, which is so weird because I want to talk about deities later if we can, because I've always said I'm a no deities person, but like maybe if you have a deity on your altar, you could give them a little Valentine, and that's all. Oh, sorry. I think Jennifer.
Is that me? Sorry. I got distracted. I'm looking for something. I was thinking like an idea like around like crafts, like some sort of craft. I read a little thing the other day, like sort of putting together like a little like love altar with like your different type of like red stones and crystals and anything that reminds you of love, like just sort of like organizing that in a space. But crafts is really fun to do. So some sort of like craft you could do together as like online or yeah, that's my idea.
I love spell crafting and ritual development and all that kind of stuff. It's like super my jam. So to figure this out, ask yourselves, what does Valentine's Day mean to me? What does this mean to me? What is it all about? Right? That's the first question. And how can I support that or enhance that in some way? And so, for instance, like Valentine's Day could be a day to celebrate relationships, right? It is the celebration of these like deep relationships, this showing appreciation for those that are choosing to share their life with you in some way, right? And so if you create like a ritual around that, what can I do to celebrate the relationships or to acknowledge the people that are choosing to share this life with me, and what does that look like? And it can look like, baking little heart-shaped cakes for everyone that you love. It could be having a dinner and inviting all of your close friends over and sharing space and celebrating your relationships and toasting for the year. I mean, it could be that if you wanted to do that as well. Your imagination really is your only limitation with this. And the more meaningful it is to you, the more of an influence it will have on your like lived experience, the more magic will be made from it. So love that. Yes. Great question. Renee, were you wanting to weigh in or change the subject?
I'm going to weigh in. I'm going to mash up Jennifer and Jen Marie's Valentine's Day idea and make puppets of your friends and little dolls and dress them up and treat them good. That's all.
That's Jen, you know what I was cutting earlier, right?
Yeah, I know
That's
that just really
that's pretty
fucking
funny.
intuitive witches. And she has no idea what we're talking about. And I love
I
that.
know.
I love
Yep,
that. This
same.
is her first
Yep.
year through.
Yep. It's great.
So way to go, Renee. I could just picture this, like, I love that idea, Renee, of like making little puppets of all of your friends and putting the things that you love most about them in there, and then them having a little tea party and your engagement with that. That's like an altar. And that's like you creating magic to support that relationship. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I love it.
I don't know what you guys are up to or talking about, but it very visually popped into my head. So it wasn't, I mean, it did just pop in there. So, okay, bye.
Next month, you're going to giggle along with us, and we're not going to say anything because it's delightful. So you may have just described the Witchwork Circle next month. Go ahead, Ray.
So I was just wanting to talk about my feeling signature. Honestly, I feel like I have kind of strayed off from my craft and my practice just because of life. But it's really good. I've been focusing more on, what's the word? Just waking up and trying to start my day with witchy things. So I've kind of made it like a routine this week of shadow work or doing a spell or anything like that. And then I've been watching a bunch of like TikToks and everything from like Jim Marie and all of that, and just like trying to, even though I'm not in foundations, trying to like get that little hit of witchiness. And it's been really nice. And so that's just been my signature this week, is slowly getting back to my witchy ways. And it's been really nice. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Go ahead, Ashley.
Okay, I like technology. It's been the day. So I kind of wanted to second that. but not necessarily getting back to my witchy ways, but because I'm so new, just figuring out how to incorporate that in to what I already have going on. And I've really had to look this last week at basically what actually serves me right now, that I can keep, and things that I can get rid of so that I have room for my practice, because that's so important to me. But it's had to be like a conscious thing. And I'm actually, it depends on the day on whether or not that's working out, but that's kind of been my same little uh, vein also this week, is trying to figure it out on how to make sure that I'm practicing and meeting those needs for myself. Oh, okay. Sorry. Jen.
Can I weigh in on that? It's also kind of touching a little bit on what Ray was saying too, in that it's something that I hear a lot is, how can I incorporate witchcraft into my daily life? Or how can I make my life more witchy? Or how can I be more witchy? Right. Which is a really, really broad question. If you like really, really look at it, that's super broad. But I actually have a broad answer that totally tracks. Okay. You ready for it? The trick to incorporating witchcraft into your daily life, it's very easy. It's about being present with the things that you're doing. It's about doing things on purpose. That's it, right? We overcomplicate it. We're like, oh, but if you listen to what like you hear on social media, like how to incorporate witchcraft into your daily life, stir intention into your coffee, blow cinnamon through your fucking front door, like that, it's all doing things on purpose, like being intentional with the things that you're doing and more present with the things that you're doing, right? If you all you did was every day before you took a drink of water, you took a deep breath every day, and that is all you did, that would profoundly change your relationship with your practice and your relationship with your physical body, your relationship with water, your relationship with yourself, like everything, just by doing that one little thing. It's about that. Any practice that you can do to bring your attention to the presence, that is some super witchy shit. Right. Go ahead, Karen.
And I'm going to add just underneath that, like in delicate italics writing in parentheses, gracefully. As you start a new practice, be kind to yourself and do it gracefully. And don't get upset if you're halfway to work and realize you didn't remember to release the quarters and shit. I am so squirrel in my brain. It happens all the time. The guides, the energy, everything, they know your heart, they know where your intentions are, and they want you to be kind to yourself. You're the only one, I'm the only one that beats my own ass. Be kind and do it gracefully, because it's a practice. It is not, yeah, it's not there's no expert witches. We're all experts in our own practice individually. And as you're crafting your own practice, have grace and kindness for yourself, and that'll go a long way. That's all. Ezra, kind and grace, Ezra.
Yeah, I think about this a lot too. Like, as I, you know, do more and more things in the mundane world, like I am getting drawn back into like real life as, after being very holed up during COVID and everything. And what I find myself doing is like asking what I'm doing something for. And so like everyday things, like if I'm starting the car, what am I turning this for? And like in my brain, I'm like, okay, so like if the opposite of dissociative is associative, then what do I associate with this thing I'm doing? If I'm taking a shower, what am I doing that for? Is it like, is it, to, because you could make that like a purity culture thing. And I'm like, I'm making my dirty self clean. Or you could say like, I'm doing this to have a closer relationship with water. I'm doing this to feel, so that, to take care of my skin, et cetera, et cetera. Like, so I'm trying to like, I'm doing that with homework because I started going back to college. And so every time there is, luckily I have a really cool program and teacher that's like, basically my teacher said, like, if something pisses me off, that's what I should do my homework about. And, and so it immediately is like, okay, what do I associate with the homework question? And what does that mean to me? And like, how am I also try to do it with like manifesting, because we have to do things that are like, hypothetical situations. And I'm like, in a hypothetical world where there was no war, like that kind of thing, because that's, then that forces my brain to imagine that world and in increasingly more detail. But it's any simple things, like if I'm waking up in the morning, like I'll wiggle my toes and I'll say, I'm doing this so that, I wake up like from the ground up, and that feels like right to me. And like, it does, like, I still have like witchy, like looking stuff and everything, but I often like don't, have that right on me, so making things that are mundane, which is also feels like alchemy in itself, turning mundane back into magical, or, it's still in my opinion, it's still magical. But we've forgotten that. And so, and it's also a rebellious thing for me, because I think that capitalism wants us to think that everything is mundane and boring and unfriendly and like all of the, all of these things. And so if I associate with every part of my life and I think about it in magical terms, then I'm like taking that back. And that's what it feels like. I think Ocean was next, or Ocean put their hand down, but
Yeah, no, I put my hand down. I'm good. I can't remember what I was gonna say, so go ahead, Jen.
Hey. I have nothing planned and I don't know what to do with my hands. I love that too, Ezra, what you said with the opposite of dissociative is associative. How do I associate? Oh my God, it's so fucking chef's kiss. It's like my brain's trying to figure out how to put that on a t-shirt. I don't know why a t-shirt, but there we have it. Hi, Carrie. You can save me from my awkward display.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Um, okay, little slight change of subject, but I'm sort of new. I've been doing shadow work for 6 or 8 months or something. Life has been really intense. Things are definitely changing for the better, but I'm in the middle of a major situation at work that's causing me a lot of distress. And I feel like I am terrified that at the core, I am completely responsible for it. You know? And I'm like afraid, I'm really afraid of that. I'm like really afraid of that. And because I'm so afraid of it, I want to look at it, but I'm having a really, really hard time doing that. And I don't know if this is making sense like at all, but help.
May I? May I dig a
You
little?
please.
Okay. First of all, that's a lot. That's a big thing, right? Like I can feel that this is a big deal for you. And when we are looking at situations like this, right? If it is there some unanswered stuff going on, like you're waiting to find out how this actually is going to unfold, but you're feeling responsible for it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the first question is, how much of that responsibility is real? Right. So how much are you actually directly responsible for this? And how much is a like trauma response of responsibility of like, oh, it's everything's my fault, right? There's often like some kind of balance involved here. And that is often like the first step. Let's understand what's really going on, or what I believe is really going on here. Right. And then going from that point. So are you okay with me asking, like, what are we work how much are we working with that is like really your responsibility, and how much is like
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
right.
That's what
Right.
I'm trying to figure out. The situation is such that there was a screw up at work, and I'm the one who's assuming responsibility for it.
Okay.
Because like legally I took the action, right? And so it's me.
Okay.
Let go, mommy. Let go.
But it's like I wasn't acting in a vacuum, you know?
Right. Right. Okay. So what I'm getting a lot right now is this: take a deep breath. Okay. Your feelings are very valid. This like fear, scary. We don't know how this is going to unfold. There's a weight here that we're not really sure of. There's a lot of data that you don't have yet, right? And that can be really unsettling. And the most productive thing that I've found in times like this is to show up for that part, your system of that, and remind yourself, I don't have enough information, but I'm really stressed out. And you're allowed to feel stress in your body. It's understandable why you are stressed, right? And it's okay. And then a lot of times what we do is we push this stress away, right? We're like, I need answers, I need answers, I need answers, 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 answers. You can't get answers right now. So let's focus on where you are right here, and just bringing that breath and that compassion and understanding that your system's kind of freaking out right now, and that's okay. And just breathe with it. It's okay. You're allowed to process this, right? You don't have enough information to make any real active changes, right? And that until you have that information, you're in this still place, right? So leaning into your still place is the best thing that you can do right now, right? Putting, instead of that energy going to try to figure something out that you don't have enough information for, put your energy to managing what you do have enough information for. Kind of freaking out. How can I support my system through this? All right. Maybe it's time to journal, pour it out, sit with your feelings and breathe through it. Right. And again, you feel the stress, and again, it's understandable. It's okay You're welcome in this space with this like stress, okay? Ezra, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things you can do is like what you're doing like right now, which is like rocking back, like taking care of your body through feeling this stress, like rocking back and forth, co-regulating, especially with a little person, you know, like that is one of the best ways that you can support your system through a stressful situation. And other somatic things just to take care of yourself when you're stuck in that kind of limbo situation. Because I know a lot of, you know, companies have like just this waiting period of bureaucracy, and it feels like part of that is to make you stress out. And I think just taking those somatic efforts, and then also I wanted to say that like I believe that everyone does the best they can do at the time, given the information and the situation that they're in. And so being compassionate with yourself and the other people in that situation is going to help, rather than like kind of your brain wants to stress out and like blame you, and you know, just kind of stay there in that shame. And so I think if you're able to talk to yourself in the way that you would like, you know, talk to that kid who maybe made a mistake, and just being as kind with yourself as possible while you're also taking those somatic steps to really soothe your nervous system. Because even if like they, you know, came and said, okay, nothing's wrong, we can move along right now, this is still something that's happening to you, you know, and your nervous system is reacting to that, you know, danger. So I think, I'm not sure if Renee or Petra was first.
Oh, I think it was me. I'm going to be really quick. So Carrie, I don't know what your exact situation is, but I'm just going to tell you, my dad ran like one of the biggest construction companies in Alaska. And so when I had some of my first jobs when I was like late teens, early 20s, I mean, we have like the Midwestern work ethic, and I had this horrible woman as a boss, and she liked to try to make people cry. Like she was just really evil. And I was really conflicted about quitting the job. And my dad told me, you don't have to work for an asshole. Like there's lots of good bosses out there. Like never work for an asshole. And he told me that when I was like 18, and I kept that close to heart. And like I said, I don't know what your situation is, but I would keep an open mind if you need a change too. Sometimes we do need changes, and if you can find good bosses, and I feel like a lot of stress comes from working with people that, you know, have like a power trip or you can't communicate with or whatever. So I just want to say, like, I know we all totally support you, and we all, and I think all know that feeling, and it's like the worst feeling. So you completely have my sympathy, and I'm thinking good thoughts for you. And sorry, Petra.
Oh, wait, how do I do this on here again? It's like every platform my brain is like, wait, what are we doing? First off, I just wanted to say, Carrie, like, I think I wanted to commend you on your courage to like come into this room and be like, I'm having a hard time, because like that is not easy. Also, PS, I sound kind of like a frog because I'm recovering from COVID. This is my whiskey voice. JK. Anyway, and when you were speaking, like this is how serendipitous the universe is. Yesterday I was in a live and a friend of mine was reading part of The Science of Stuck by Britt Frank, who's like a nervous system somatics person. And it like wrapped language around like what to do when you're triggered, essentially, in a way that I was like, oh, like this makes so much sense. And I didn't have this framework for like, if you're feeling panic, do this thing. If you're feeling like freeze, do this thing. Like I intuitively do those things, but to have someone else like lay it all out. But the first thing that she said was like, you know, whenever you feel that activation in your body, is to acknowledge like, I'm having a trauma response. Just say it out loud. And I was like, and what she said was it helps bring your thinking mind back online to a certain extent, even though your body, your lizard brain is being like, danger. It helps you be like, wait, I'm recognizing what's happening in my body. And I was like, that makes so much sense. And I think I do that internally, but I'd never like heard someone express it. Like if you just say it out loud. And there is also something to like our reticular activating system basically listens to what we say and then filters things as like appropriately. So it helps us kind of negotiate and orient ourselves. And also what I wanted to say was that like, so many of these experiences in professional environments can trigger old shame wounds from childhood. Like it's really easy. I found that when I was in residency, like medicine is just like so good at that. And, you know, also when you're like, what's on the line, right? Like, I'm like, people's lives, like I could kill someone, fuck, you know? So the stress response is super real. And I know that I think you said something about like astrophysics or physics, or there's something that you do. It sounds very like mathy and something to do with like science of some variety. That's all I
Solar
remember.
physics. I'm impressed you remembered. That's so awesome.
Physics, but I was like, it's not astrophysics, it's something else. Okay, perfect. Solar physics. So it's like, that sounds like, I'm gonna guess like big dollars are involved, and like there's some level of like academial hierarchy that's like very much ingrained in your work structure. Based on just like that title alone, I'm like, yeah, that's probably fair. And so I'm gonna guess there's not a lot of compassion built into your work environment or humanity. And so I just want to normalize and like validate that like you might not just be feeling how you're feeling because of your own history, but also because of like the environment that you work in and the culture of that environment, right? Like, and so it's important in these things to be like, what is me and what isn't me? Because that will help with like your locus of control, which is essentially like what we have actual agency over. Is like, you can't control your people in your work. You can't like predict what, even though your brain super will want to predict what they're going to do so that you feel less distressed. Like that's all a distraction tactic. I speak from personal experience. To have your brain is doing what it's supposed to do when there's a threat, is orient outward and figure it out so you can be safe. But the thing is that your work environment is not a tiger, it's not a bear, it's not a moose, it's not trying to eat you. It's an emotional situation that who knows how long it'll take to actually like resolve. And the only part of that emotional equation that you can influence is internal. And I'm not saying change your feelings, because I don't fucking like that shit. I'm saying like you can only turn inwards towards your own distress and provide comfort and compassion and soothing and care, so that that distress can metabolize and process and work its way through. And then your brain will get more access to your higher cortical structures and your thinking mind, your rational mind, to start problem solving. The problem in our society is that the only tool we're generally taught, like ubiquitously throughout society, is to repress, which just puts pressure on distress and then makes it a powder keg. And so, and my logical mind actually hates this, because it's just like, no, I just want to avoid the feelings. Like, you know, like, fair enough. I'm like, I get it. It's not great to like snot all over the floor and cry because you know, a part of me that's very young feels a lot of shame and is really, really upset that I've, you know, fucked something up, or I think I fucked something up, and maybe somebody hates me, or maybe there's going to be this huge like maybe. But in the moment, it's like a crying child. It's like what that child needs is to be picked up. Does that, I think, hopefully that makes sense. And it's hard because it's the opposite of what we're conditioned and socialized to do. And especially when I find as someone who like really was like very leaned into the logical mind, very leaned into my rational mind, I can intellectualize my feelings and get stuck in the why, and the distress just keeps spiraling, right? Instead of turning inward and being like, okay, like I'm having this sensation of hotness and pain and tightness in my chest. I want to cry and I want to scream, and my stomach hurts. And instead of like putting my hands on those places and just being with whatever that is, letting tears flow or screaming into a pillow if I need to, like whatever it is, oftentimes I'll be like, why is this happening? I need to figure it out. I need to rationalize. I need to and it's just, that's a coping mechanism that I was socialized with and that I learned to avoid those distressing emotions. So I just wanted to share that, and I'll put the book in the chat because I was like, this is such a good book. I have been read like, I don't know, maybe 5 pages of it and was like, done, that's enough. This is great. And just know that, like, you know, there's places like the Facebook group, or like, you know, in the Witchy Way cafe or whatever, where if you need people to co-regulate with you as you process, because that's the other piece of this, is that like we did not evolve to process by ourselves. We also didn't evolve to like handle our distress alone, but it's a lot because most of us don't have this skill, right? And it is a skill. It is something we can learn. It's just something that we didn't learn because, thanks Victorian parenting for emotionally repressing all of us, like, you know. And so it's something where like people in these groups, like I've come here and been like, I need to ball my face off and just be super dysregulated and mute because I'm screaming, and just have it held, you know. And I think it can be hard because we're so used to hiding. And so I just wanted to say, like, in whatever capacity that feels safe, this community, at least to me, has proven over time that like we as a unit have the ability to do that, and that people are willing to. Doesn't mean like people will be able to do it like on demand or immediately or whatever, but it does mean like we care, and we're all like, hey, we all get this. We're doing shadow work. There's big fucking feelings involved in that. Like really what big ones. So I just wanted to say that, and really just like invite you to sit with whatever's resonated what I said, but also that you're not alone. Like, we all get it. We don't think you're crazy. We don't think you're weird. We don't think that you're bad. Like,
Thank
you're
you,
human.
Petra. Thank you. It's like so beautiful. And I feel like so much of I feel like something's out to get me, you know, and that's weird. And I'm trying to put that in place. Like, is that me? You know?
I mean, I think paranoia, which is like what I would kind of branch that under, is a normal response when you've maybe been under threat for a long time at a low level. Like, I don't know what your working environment is like, but like I definitely, like, I experienced that in like residency, specifically for being like neurodivergent and like not fitting the norms and getting put under a microscope for it. And it affects like how you think about everything. And I think that's a normal response, you know? You're welcome. I'm gonna put my hand down.
I love you so much, Petra. And Ezra, I mean, it's just in tying it both together, I love what both of you had to say. And yeah, Carrie, I have lost so many jobs, not so many, that's an exaggeration, but that pit in your stomach feeling, and I'm not trying to minimize your feelings by any stretch, but what I've used to calm myself and to calm those voices is I've told myself I was looking for a job when I found this one. What is an emergency? I've worked in emergency medicine. Riding a stretcher from the emergency room doors up to the OR door, that's an emergency. Me not getting you the reports till 11:30 when they were due to you by 10, and now the company is going to have to pay $10,000 for every 5 minutes that Karen was late, and now there's a whole lot of money and the whole budget and the whole departments, and everybody's looking at Karen like she's, just, you ruined Christmas. No, I didn't ruin Christmas. I'm human. And it could have just as easily been you or you or you. When you say that you work in a vacuum, that's kind of what it could have been, and they're human as well. I'm not, again, I understand those big feelings of fear of what's next when money is, especially big money. $10,000 every 5 minutes is big fucking money. I cried big time in the ladies' room, big sobby snot and tears, because that same pit in the stomach, because I was puking too, because the knot in your stomach is so bad that, but yeah, you're exactly right. Human. And if that, I can't put myself in a place where any longer, I can't go back. I don't want to go back to a career or a business where they don't recognize the humanity of it. Living here in St. Louis, a very strongly emphasized, medical and scientific community. There's not a lot of empathy with scientists. They're not, they're very logically thinking, especially ones that are writing grants and want papers and being published and everything. There's no time. They have goals and ambition, and humanity sometimes is lost in that because they're neurodivergent too. A lot of times I noticed. And it's just, human that we've focus. So you are worth being in any place. And maybe this is the universe's way of telling you that this isn't your place. And there is a much better place where you were welcomed, or you can enjoy and share your gifts, your talents, your intelligence. I'm still trying to find mine. So if you find yours, leave breadcrumbs. I'm right behind you, cousin. But you will be okay. We're all going to be okay. Sure, take it away.
What this made me think about is like there's this quote that I saw recently that was like intellectualizing emotions is because of fear of experiencing them. And I very much relate to that as somebody who spent my life intellectualizing all my emotions and not realizing that I wasn't actually feeling them. And one of the ways that I have tried to start learning to feel my emotions is actually doing that kind of associative thing, like where I make things magical. Like if I'm gonna watch a scary movie, like I go into it going like, okay, I'm going to let myself like feel the fear that is happening here, because and I think that that's what music and movies and shows in general like can do for us, is that it brings up those fears that we have by putting us in the character's perspective so that we can actually feel it in a on a like on a micro level in an environment that's safe. And then the movie ends and then it's over. And then so like that's kind of like one of the ways that I do that intentionally. And so I realized like while we were talking about this, that's a big part of the reason that I watch scary movies is to feel fear and to like let the shivers out, because that's like a very natural way for your body to feel the emotions. And like if you look at what animals do, like they shake until they don't feel it anymore, or it's actually something I noticed a lot in like Japanese animation. They show the physical response to fear when they're animating, especially children. Like they shake their hands. They're like, oh my gosh, I have to, like they like rub their face or something like that. All of it's like soothing things to actually like get you to embody the feeling that you are having, rather than, for me, it was always just like, oh, okay, I understand why I'm scared. And now I can suppress it, right? and that's what I thought like the end of the emotion was. But yeah, that's just what it kind of brought up for me. And there's, one of the things like we're probably feeling a lot of emotions around the subject. And like, I know like fear is probably a big one, but I also have been dealing a lot with anger recently and letting myself, feel that in like micro doses as I'm doing my homework. And all of my homework is about like the terrible things that corporations and the government have done. And every single time I'm just like, and also writing about it is a way to process emotions. And so like I'll do a bunch of research about the stuff that I'm angry about, and then I'll just be like, as I'm typing it. And I think that's, good for me. I've always been a writer, and that's definitely how I process things. But yeah, it just made me think about the ways that we can process emotions and do it in an intentional, witchy way by allowing ourselves to the things that we're already going to do already. Like if we're already going to watch a movie with our family, we can decide, okay, is this movie going to make me cry? And if that's the case, then maybe I can actually release some, tears intentionally for something that have been bottled up about. So, Jenny Lee.
So I'm gonna switch gears here. Last week, I think it was last week, we talked about Jimmery mentioned braiding sweetgrass, and I got it on Audible and listened to it. I've now listened to it 3 times. There is something so mesmerizing about the way she tells a story. I have not been so immersed in ecology in my entire life. But yeah, the amount of care and the amount of, I don't know, the way that they gave personality to the things in nature that we're trying to save. Just that little bit of empathy that we can share by them getting that personality in our minds. I think that makes a huge difference. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you for that book. It's really good. And I got the young adults book for the boys to listen to, and they've already listened to it twice. So yeah, it's really impressive.
Hey mom.
And it gives you kind of a.
Gina's over at Moon's.
Okay, should be okay. It gives you kind of kind of an open-ended option to see where it is you fit into this ecosystem, where you personally fit into it and where your beliefs fit into it and that kind of thing. And I like the fact that she's not pushy about, all that kind of stuff, but it gives you such a broad amount of answers that you can choose from. That was really neat.
I love S.A.S. Mass. I love S.A.S. It's my favorite. Thank you, everyone, for contributing and sharing. Not that I'm necessarily closing it up or anything, but you guys are amazing.
Next S.A.S, they'll have a completely different view.
Yeah, next S.A.S, I'll be down in Oregon. I'm so excited about the temperature change, guys. I am so excited to be able to smell dirt. Just to be able to smell like decomposing things or like dirt. Oh my God. I was sitting in this. Oh, this would be a fun exercise for y'all if you would want to do this. Actually allowing yourself to feel spring coming, right? We don't do this very often, but just sit in that and be like, what is spring to me? What does spring smell like? What does spring taste like? And for me, spring brings this excitement for me of like all these different new plans, and I have a new opportunity to approach this cycle of the year in a better way, right? And so I was sitting with that the other day because Kim and I were talking. I was like, okay, what's the temperature? And she's like, oh, it might even hit 50 when you're here. And I'm like, I haven't felt 50 degrees since October. And so I just sat there and just like, oh yeah, what do I miss about spring? What am I looking forward to experiencing when I'm in an Oregon forest? And it's that smell of dirt. I miss the smell of dirt. I miss condensation on things. Like I miss that 'cause condensation's all fucking frozen right now. But just things that are like wet and dewy. And I'm just so excited about it. I'm just so excited about it. It's gonna be so hot. Ah, I am like on a mission this year. You guys want to know what my mission is this year? I'm on a mission. When I'm on a mission, like shit happens. I'm on a mission to invest in the shop at Bright and Dark this year. Like that is what I'm doing. All of my attention is toward, because I had this vision, guys. I had this vision of, and like Kim and I talk all the time, right? We talk all the time. But I had this vision of walking into this big, like, it almost looked like a pole barn, like a pole barn. And there's all these little tables and all these, like, witches gathered around these tables making things and hanging out. And there's witches going through with like snack carts. And it's just this whole amazing feeling of collaboration and cooperation in order to bring, the supplies that our community uses for our practice, right? And that full circle of witches supporting witches, being witches kind of thing. Oh my God. I'm just like, that is what I want to bring from the other side, is that vision of walking in and having a bunch of witches working on something together. And that in my head is like, oh yeah, the the shop, because Kim and I were literally talking recently about Bright and Dark investing in property and putting up a barn, a pole barn like this to do this kind of thing. And oh my God, it's so exciting. So that's what I don't know what it's going to look like quite yet. But it's already coming together in really cool ways. And for all of you that support the shop, for all of you that have the subscription boxes or support the shop at all, you guys are making that happen, because everything that you're doing is going directly to not just like the witches of Bright and Dark, but we have other witches that we support that have their products in the shop as well. And it's just this amazing, beautiful thing. And I can't wait to be like, all right, you know, Ocean, and all right, Alicia, all right, Carrie, let's do a weekend and make witchy stuff. Like I just I cannot, I can't wait. I can't wait. It's so exciting. It's like literally my it's literally my retirement plan. What I see doing in my sunset days is traveling between all of these intentional communities and being able to celebrate with all of these witches that did the thing, right? So exciting. Okay, Renee, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, when you guys were talking about making the spell paper and using moon water and all that stuff, I was just like, oh my gosh, like my brain was exploding. Like it was so exciting. And I was like, why doesn't it say this all over the spell papers? Like people need to know this, you know? And the reason I say that is because like when I look online for like supplies, just, you know, or just cruising around out there, and you see stuff that, you know, like they're selling the exact same thing at Walmart, it's like, why would you ever? I think there's so many people that want to, it's just like buying local, right? Like you want to support your community first, and you want to know that things were intentionally made, and you want to support other witches. And yeah, like why isn't that more of a thing? Like why, you know? So anyway, I just wanted to weigh in on that. But also I just, the spell paper thing with moon water, it literally blew my mind. I was like, that is the best idea, the best thing I've ever heard.
That so there's a reason why it's not all over the website. There's a reason why. I'm not a writer, and neither is Kim. That is the only reason why, is because we don't have someone writing the descriptions for these things. We're literally doing the best we can with what we have. And we don't take volunteers because, you know, we aren't a nonprofit. We're on this like tipping point where, you know, everyone that contributes to Bright and Dark Center is paid a living wage. They're compensated for the work that they do, and that is important. That's really important to us. We aren't in debt in any way. We don't take out loans. We don't do any of that. So Bright and Dark is where it is, completely due to magic and the passion that we put into it, right? And literally us doing the best we can with everything that we have, right? This transition into a more like nonprofit structure is something that we're wanting to do. But those that have done that know that it's so much back end navigation, and you got to know a lot to be able to do that. And we just haven't had a witch that has come up through the program that's like, I know how to do this. This is something that I'm passionate about, and let's figure out a way to make this work. So that's literally what we're waiting for in order to make that shift more toward a nonprofit thing, because we want to, that is our heart. And so many of us, we share this common vision. And a lot of, because of the way that we're structured right now, we have to pump the brakes on that a little bit, of people being like, hey, I do this cool thing, I want to help. And we are constantly in this like balance of, we don't want to slip into cult-like dynamics. And once you get into the volunteering and people contributing their time and energy and resources without compensation, it slips into that. And I don't want to get into that. And that might be, you know, some fear stuff that I need to work through personally, but it could also be this like safeguard that's in place so that we don't slip into that area. But yeah, so like 100% transparency, that's where we are. But that kind of consideration is put into everything that we bring through the shop. We prioritize resourcing even the herbs and things like that from witches that have grown or wild harvested or any of that kind of stuff. And it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better. And if you guys leave reviews and share our social media that we talk about these things, that goes so far. It goes way farther than you guys can possibly imagine, with regards to things like algorithms and things like that. The more you guys actually are talking about what we're doing, the more it validates, like it makes it more real. Does that make sense? I don't know. Yeah, that same like care and mindfulness in the spell paper that is made using moon water and crystals in a vat, and is like, there's a whole like ceremonial thing that happens to all of the things that we're doing. And we're only going to get better at it, and there's only going to get more of us, because if there's an increase in demand, then we can start employing more witches to do this. Paying witches a living wage for being witches is the cycle that I'm trying to get into. As long as we have to participate in capitalism, might as well make it work for us. That was a long tangent. But yeah, thank you. I love the stuff. And we actually put out new products all the time. The cachet box is a really good way to get in on that kind of stuff too. Hi, guys. But that's one of the things that I'm doing in Oregon. That's a long way of saying I am going down to Oregon for 2 weeks because Kim, like, we need to make more products for the shop because of the demand that we're now getting, which is awesome. So keep it up. I get to fly down and visit my sister witch more often. I love awkward silences. They're my favorite too, by the way, guys. I love it. I know that once we start doing the music again, we're going to have less of an opportunity for these awkward silences. So I'm loving it for as long as we have them. Hi, Renee.
Can I know there's not much time left, but can I just talk about deities real quick? Okay, so part of the reason I had resisted being a witch like my whole life since I was a teenager was because I didn't want to worship anything. Like I didn't like that idea, right? Like I felt like I'd already been like kind of like that was the only way to go. And so once I like found chaos magic and figured out like I absolutely didn't need deities, then I was like, okay, I'm all in finally. But having said that, and I don't want deities, but what if they want you? Because I'm having an experience in my dreams with Pan, who's on my mind, who I've never like really like, well, I mean, I guess I've always felt an affinity, but it's never been something. But I had this dream, and I know it's boring to hear other people's dreams, but one thing I will not do in my life is frenemies. And in this dream, I was hanging out with Pan and this woman who wants to be my frenemy, and I refused. She was trying to trap him and put him in a circle. So I kept saying, put your legs on. Maybe I'll scare her away, you know, because he had human legs. But I also used magic in my dream, like, and cast a protective circle around both of us. And so when I was trying to unpack that dream, I was like, so, like, I've heard like I said, you might not want deities, but they might want you. But also, I mean, I don't know if the symbolism in the dream was this woman was trying to like tame nature and tame wildness. And anyway, so I've been having a lot of feelings about Pan, but I'm gonna just, since there's only a few minutes left, I'm gonna mute myself if anybody has anything to say about that.
Do I ever? The concept of deity worship within chaos magic is a little bit like, what is that really then? So yes, hear you. That's a whole thing. What do you do when they reach out to you? Okay. I personally have never had what I would consider a deity reach out to me. Like I never had an experience that I would be like, yep, that's what was going on. But I have experienced a lot of my guides using concepts like deities or specific deities to communicate something with me. So what I would do in that situation is I would ask myself, what does Pan mean to me? Right? And it sounds like Pan represents the wild for you, that which is wild and untamed. And I would totally interpret that dream in the way that you were trying to protect that which is wild from someone that was trying to take advantage or something like that. I wouldn't necessarily go to, oh, Pan is wanting to work with me. But if that's what you are going to, I don't want to dismiss that because I think that there's a little nugget of truth in all of the things. But again, if you are resistant to working with deities because of the whole, I'm going to worship you thing, there's also weight in that as well. So again, just because you have dreams or whatever that certain deities are interacting with you doesn't necessarily mean that that deity itself is reaching out to you. It could also be a communicating thing. Go ahead, Ezra.
I love this conversation. I think that it's like, I do like to work with deities, and I've always enjoyed characters. Like I've always been a character centric person. So for me, like deities and like basically any type of uh mythology that I learned about growing up and really like imprinted on, they will end up coming up for me. And some of them, even ones that I just kind of vaguely heard from the side. But yeah, I will make it quick. But like basically I would I don't worship any like that word doesn't even like come into play with it for me. I instead kind of like what Jemery was saying is I think about what they represent for me. And then because I enjoy working with characters and that makes sense for my brain, who's like, like a theater kid and like and a writer and everything, like I decide to keep them in that form and kind of play with them and think of them as friends who are on my team. But I'm sure that you could, if you don't want the actual like name character of that person, because if you have negative associations with it, like you could just say, okay, Pan represents the wild for me. And so I just am going to take the name off of that and create like a different, think of it more of an energy or a vibe instead. So that's entirely up to you, but I think that's really cool. I love Pan. So yeah. And I've also had dreams where it felt like they were like some kind of character was entreating me to consider them, basically, like to think about them more. So all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks you guys. I mean, yeah, it's a lot to think about, it a lot to unpack, and I love it. And I love hearing everyone else's experience and what they think. So thank you so much.
Well, happy S.A.S., everyone. That was awesome. Like I said before, the next time I see you, I'll have a completely different background and probably not be so fucking cold and be much better fed because anyway, living with a kitchen witch. I love it. Love it. Love it. All right. That's it, guys. That is all, folks. You're amazing again. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow morning at on the live if you guys want to join us with that. It's on Instagram. So, bye.